What's good, YouTube? It's your boy LB Dino. I appreciate you checking out the vid. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, YouTube, this is a reaction to Breaking Point segment talking about the Biden student loan debt thing and how it got blocked. Pay attention, maybe you get some knowledge in your head and not that fake news that y'all be watching. Church.
In terms of Biden's biggest, most direct economic program, which is the student debt relief. So let's go ahead and put this first part up on the screen. Court temporarily blocks Biden's student loan forgiveness. Now, there were a few different court decisions over the weekend. I'll break all of them down for you. So there was a federal district court judge in Missouri that initially ruled against this lawsuit, which was brought by 6 Republican-led states.
First, the Republicans brought the
Biden's
lawsuit and
student
it
debt
got
relief
blocked.
program. A lot of people thought this was the one that was most likely to succeed. So the first thing that happened is a Missouri district court said, no, you don't have standing. Well, they went ahead and appealed, and at the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, they're the ones that said, you know what, we're going to issue an injunction blocking any student debt relief from going forward until we figure this thing out. So this is not like they're not saying the GOP states are right. They're not saying they're going to side with them. They're just saying, hey, Biden administration, you can't relieve anyone's debt until we figure this stuff out. So basically, they're holding
this stuff up for no reason.
That's one piece. The other piece that a lot of people took note of is because there are multiple cases that are going through the court system right now having to do with the student loan debt relief program. So Amy Coney Barrett, go ahead and put this up on the screen, actually rejected a different request to block a Biden student loan debt forgiveness program. She did this effectively on her own because she's responsible for these types of applications from cases in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. That includes Wisconsin. This particular suit was filed by a Wisconsin taxpayers group on Wednesday. There was no language here. There was no long written whatever about why she blocked this from going forward. It could have just been based on lack of standing. That's probably the most likely thing, maybe not necessarily on the merits, but noteworthy anyway that one of Trump's justices stepped in here on her own and was like, no.
So a Trump-appointed judge blocked somebody who was suing to stop the Biden plan from going through. That's crazy. And I bet you Trump is out here saying, the Republicans and the Trump people is out here saying, oh, this student debt thing is bad. But a Trump-appointed judge blocked a lawsuit. That's interesting, isn't it?
To this particular student attempt to block the program. The context of this is that, you know, so far the app or the website in order to apply for student loan debt forgiveness has been flooded with applications.
Of course.
President Biden put this next piece up on the screen, said on Friday 22 million people have already registered, already signed up for student loan relief.
22.
I have to give them credit, Sagar. It's remarkably different from the experience of Obamacare, where in the first day of the Obamacare website launching, do you know how many people were able to actually get Obamacare?
I remember it was a disaster. I can't remember.
6.
Okay, there we go.
6 people.
6 people
on the first day. Not 6,000.
Right.
Not 6 million. 6 people. There's actually a New York Times op-ed about this I'm pulling these numbers from, but they did make this process really simple. All you need is your name, your address, your social security number, and it's one other thing.
And you can apply on your phone.
You can do it on your phone. So people have really been flooding this website with requests. 22 million people have applied. And now the courts are stepping in and saying, you can't move forward with giving these people relief. The White House is asking, go ahead and put KGPJP's statement here, statement by Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. They're saying, today's temporary order does not prevent borrowers from applying for student debt relief at studentaid.gov. We encourage eligible borrowers to go ahead and join the 22 million Americans who have already gone about this. It's also important to note the order does not reverse the trial court's dismissal of the case. That's what I was referencing before, the Missouri District Court, which dismissed the case. So, you know, this is going to continue to work its way through the courts, but that's where things stand today. Interestingly, too, Sagar, neither party is running on this at all.
Yeah.
And it could end up being, I mean, in my opinion, especially for young voters who are like benefiting from this and are hard to turn out, this is a massive missed opportunity for Democrats to actually show, like, see, we actually did something for you that we said that we would do.
Right.
Actually,
well, I mean,
do it. That's why they're not running
so
on it.
Blunt turnout if people think that it's not real, or if they think it's, because one of the worst things you can do is promise somebody and then not end up
and then not come through.
That would be a big problem, and that's part of the why when we talked about this, we're like, they chose that. What was it? They chose like COVID.
Yeah.
So just to explain, the legal justification was they used like a pandemic emergency power in the HEROES Act from 2001.
Y'all gotta pay attention to this right here, son.
For this, when they actually had a separate way legally that they could have pursued this.
They could have done it a different way.
At the court level. It's interesting because a lot of predictions said that the justices would reject the student debt case if a borrower or a servicer were to bring it. Amy Coney Barrett dismissing that, kind of putting that one to bed. But this injunction at least gives some path forward in the federal court system that could ultimately lead to a reversal. And so if they didn't make sure, this is part of the reason why happened to the Trump people too, on DACA, on the census, on a bunch of these things. When you don't actually, and you kind of haphazardly do something without any real legal pretext or justification, you leave yourself vulnerable to this. And it also is just why, like, doing these things outside of legislation is just always so dicey, because it's like, unless you really have 100% clear authority, there is always some judge somewhere who will disagree and throw the process into chaos.
I disagree with that, though, because I think it's better. I mean, this is clarifying, right? Because the Democrats, Biden, they're doing the thing. They're providing people relief. And then it's very clear who's trying to take it away. So I am very much in favor of, you know, using the executive powers that are at your disposal. Let's be clear. I mean, presidents for a lot of years have done targeted student loan debt relief. They've just never done a program that is quite this size, which is why the legal rationale that they used was so perplexing. Because there's this other Higher Education Act, I can't remember, 68, I don't remember.
But it's in the education. Yeah, it's under the Department of Education.
And that's what previous presidents have always used, and obviously that's gone through with no problem. So it seems like it would have been harder for the courts to strike it down if they had used that justification rather than this weird, like, it's a pandemic one. I've yet to see a legal analysis that makes sense to me of why they chose to go this route instead of the other one. So I have no idea why they ultimately made that choice. There must have been some rationale, but I really have yet to see what the rationale was. And listen, ultimately my view is that the courts are ideological partisan actors, that they decide what they want the outcome to be, and then they, like, rig the judicial logic to try to get there. But at the very least, you could make it a little harder for them, ultimately.
No, I mostly agree. I mean, I think the same.
My boy Saga don't even want
this. To see a Hawaii judge that doesn't love striking down any restriction on immigration. The point being that whenever you throw it to the courts in these systems, why I've always been an opponent of it in this way is because then it gets all held up, and then at the end of the day, like, there's some legal wrangling, and what if the justification on this comes out and nukes it for future generations, and then you make it impossible to even pursue in a different manner? So I'm more looking at it that way, which is that, and also politically, I mean, I just think it's bad whenever, and actually destroys even more trust in an institution when you promise people something and you don't actually do it competently. It really does lead people to think that nothing is possible, when maybe it was if they just used a different legal pretext. I looked and asked too, by the way. Nobody knows.
Yeah, right. It's a mystery. I was like, I don't know. Don't know why they did it this way.
Good job, people.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it.
That's the vid. Thanks for checking out this reaction. Check out the next one. Church.